Hey, thank you. Thank you so much for being here today. Greetings from Utah. It's so fun at the beginning of the class to see all you guys coming in from all over. So thank you so much for taking the time to come and hang out with me today. We have some super fun things in store for you today. As you know, we are going to be doing some marbling with cake, but I also have some fun things to show you with barks and dipped strawberries and some donuts, actually. So there's a lot going on, and hopefully this will be helpful and just teach you some things to make you more confident in the kitchen when you're playing with all the fun things. So we're going to start with our cake, though. So, oh, let me just do a little plug first, actually. So in your local Michael's store, if you go into the food crafting section, there is a new line just at each store that has all things cake decorating, baking, garnishing, embellishing from Sweet Tooth Fairy. And I should say my name is Megan Faulkner Brown, and I'm the founder of the Sweet Tooth Fairy, which is a retail bakery that started 15 years ago in my basement. So a lot has happened since then, but I'm super excited to be partnered with Michael's and to bring you guys all of these fun things for you to make at home. So anyway, one of the things that's available for you are cake mixes, and we've made it really, really easy for you. Inside of this marble cake mix comes 3 packets of cake mix, and all you need to do is follow the instructions on the back and just get some eggs and some oil and some water and just follow along. It's very, very simple. So all I'm going to do is cut each bag of the pre-portioned cake mix and pour it into a bowl. And this one has pink, green, and white. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take 1/3 cup of water. So I have my 1/3 measuring cup right here. And just pour it right in. And then I'm going to take some oil, 1/4 cup of oil, do the same thing. I might need more oil. Pretend there's more oil and we'll put it in here as soon as Matt gets it from the kitchen from me. And then we're going to add an egg. We actually had pre-added an egg to this green one, just kind of hoping to help save some time because there's a lot to pack into this class. Watch this TV magic. I'm going to hand this measuring cup off screen. It's going to come back to me full of oil. Thank you. And we're just going to put it in here. All right. So I'm going to take a whisk and for about a minute, just whisk these ingredients all together until it's smooth and not super bumpy. Kind of get all the clumps out. You can do this in your electric mixer. I just opted for the class today to do it by hand so you guys could see the different colors of the cake mix. But you could easily just do it like one by one in your kitchen with the mixer and it would go quickly. Just keep in mind that you'll need to wash the bowl really just in between pink and green, because I went from white to pink, so that's not gonna it's not gonna stain this color at all because it's just white, right? But if I were to take the pink, or if this were green and then try to add it to one of the other colors, then it would change the color a little bit. So just giving it some some stirs, the nice little, I don't know, tricep workout, some kind of workout. So you can cross two things off your list: toning and baking. Okay, I'm just gonna, like in a perfect world, there'll be a sink and I could rinse this off. So I'm just gonna pretend like there is. I'm just gonna wipe this off and then mix the green. So I should say, if you know, if you would prefer to make like a from scratch cake recipe, awesome. I love, love, love baking from scratch. We bake from scratch in all of our bakeries. So, so if you were doing this with one of your own recipes, you could just make your vanilla recipe and then divide it into 3 different bowls. Leave one of them just as is. And then with food coloring, you know, add whatever color you want. We just chose to do this cute pink and green one because it's available to you. So are there any questions at this point that I can be helpful with? Anyone? No? No. It's pretty basic at this point. Ooh, look, there was a little pocket of cake mix. Again, if you're doing this at home and you have a hand mixer and you have bowls that are more sturdy than these plastic ones, feel free to use your hand mixer or like your electric stand mixer for this process. All right, so here we have our 3 colors. We've got our pink, our green, and our white, which is naturally a little bit yellow because of the egg, right, that we add to it. So I'm just gonna clean this up a little bit and grab a cake pan and show you how to marble your cake batter so that when you go to slice into your cake, it's just beautiful and has all the different colors inside. Okay, so here is, this is a 10-inch, oh no, like a 9-inch cake pan. The cake that we've pre-made isn't this big, but I wanted to use a bigger pan just to show you, kind of exaggerate the marbling process. So you're going to want to make sure that you grab some nonstick cooking spray and coat the inside of your pan, making sure to get the edges and all around. And I like to say, when you think that there's like a gross amount of the spray, give it a little bit more, because there's kind of nothing more frustrating than having issues getting your cake out of your cake pan. So that helps a lot if you're a little excessive with your cooking spray. Okay, so I have a disher or cookie scoop or ice cream scoop, whatever you call it. And all I'm going to do is scoop colors like kind of randomly into the pan. So I'm going to take the white. I'm going to do these scoops there. Take some pink. And there's actually like no rhyme or reason to this pattern. I'm just spreading them out so that when I go to mix them together, that we can get a nice kind of tri-colored swirl. Again, pretend that there's a sink and I'm rinsing this out to clean it off. But then we'll take our green, just kind of come back on top of it. And you just are kind of filling in the holes. So you can see that there's, oh look, there's a little burst of cake mix, but that's okay. I'll just kind of give it a little stir and it'll be totally fine. Okay, then I'm just going to come back again and kind of go on top and kind of like alternate, you know, so that, again, just kind of like maximizing the swirl effect, the marble effect, I should say. It's kind of therapeutic, right? It's like watching, I don't know. Oh, those are shows are, it's like mesmerizing just to kind of scoop and fill and watch them kind of all fall into each other. Okay, then I'm going to come back with the green. And the other thing I should say is like, you can totally just do like 2 colors, right? Or traditionally, I would say that a marble cake is chocolate and vanilla. So if you wanted to just do two flavors or 2 colors, that's totally awesome and great. Okay, so you can see it just kind of looks like camo a little bit. So all I'm going to do is take a knife, just like a regular steak knife, and I'm just going to go like back and forth with the knife, and then I'll turn my cake pan, and then I'll do the same thing, just going the opposite way. So I just start and I pull down, and then I kind of flip the knife and then pull back up. Pull down, turn the knife, pull up, down, up. See how I'm just kind of giving a slight twist to the knife as I go the opposite direction. And then once you've made it all the way across the pan, all you're going to do is just flip it and do the same thing. So then you're going to get a really cool pattern. And remember, underneath, there's a little bit different of the batter than we did on top. So that'll be really cool when you cut into it to see not only like it'll be kind of layered in the cake with the different colors marbled through. So if you wanted, like, if you're not happy with the way this marbling looks, like you can just go ahead and keep going, you know, like this. So yeah, super simple, really simple. And at this point, you would put it in the oven and bake it according to the directions. And we've got some TV magic happening here today. So I'm going to show you how it turns out once you've baked it and let it cool. We have a cardboard cake. Okay, awesome. So these cakes we actually pre-made. Again, TV magic. It's kind of fun. And I'll show you. We'll stack the cake together. But so can you see how cool it is? It's a really fun technique, super easy. And, you know, like when you slice into it, it's pretty fun. All right. So just kind of a little tip. Last week, we actually did a cake class as well. And one thing that I like to tell people that works for me, and hopefully it's beneficial to you, is like I always bake ahead my cake rounds because for lots of reasons, but one of the most probably most important reason is just that when I'm actually decorating it, I feel like chilled cakes or frozen cakes are so much easier to work with. Like there's way more structural integrity to the cake. So if you can, then I would totally recommend making it ahead of time. So, okay, Just gonna do kind of a quick and dirty cake tutorial. If you want like more information, you can always go back and look at last week's class. We did a mermaid cake class, and I went like really in depth into preparing the cake, baking the cake, you know, cooling, prepping, all that stuff. So all I'm doing is taking some buttercream frosting, layering it in between the cakes, and stacking the other cake rounds on top. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to do like a little bit of a crumb coat, and then I'm going to show you like a marble technique for frosting the exterior of your cake. There's definitely, I'm sure plenty of you have seen like marbled fondant. There's a way to actually do buttercream where you frost it out onto like a parchment paper or a silpat and marble it onto that, and then apply it essentially to your cake after it's set up just a little bit. But this other technique is way more simple, and it just kind of gives like a cool, gives your cake a cool vibe, if that's what you're going for. Okay, so what I'm doing here, this is just the crumb coat. And if you're unfamiliar with the crumb coat, it's just like a scrappy layer of frosting that you do initially on your cake to make sure that it traps the crumbs in to the frosting of this layer, so that when you do like your final layer, you don't have like a bunch of crumbs showing through. We good on questions? No questions yet? Okay. Okay, so ideally at this point, I would put this in the freezer and let it set up for like at least 10 or 15 minutes, just to let the frosting kind of set up. Buttercream naturally, even if you just leave it out at room temperature, it's gonna kind of get like a little bit of a shell. But just for the interest of time, I'm gonna forego chilling it, and I'm just gonna show you how to get kind of like a marbly look with your buttercream frosting. Okay, so here we have just some white and pink and teal. And I'm just gonna put some of it in actually I'm gonna put like almost all the white into the bowl. And then I'm just gonna add a few scoops of the other colors into the bowl with it. So just like little dollops, a couple of each. And then I'm just going to take my, okay, so see that? It's mostly white, and then it has some of the pink and some of the teal. And then all I'm going to do is kind of fold it a little bit, like just kind of do a few little twists like this. Not too much, not too many, because at this point we're trying to avoid the colors like straight up mixing together and turning into like a light purple, although that would be pretty. And then I'm just going to apply to the outside of the cake. I'm just taking the spatula, and this part is pretty messy in the sense of when I'm putting it on the cake, I'm not in the slightest concerned about what it's actually looking like at this point, because I'm going to come back with a like a bowl scraper, And we're gonna straighten out, smooth out the frosting. So we still have a little left over. Put that on the top. Now, if you get to this stage and it's like all the colors are mixed together and you're looking at like a purple frosting all together, then you can just take some more of the white and the pink and the teal and just repeat that process where you just scoop some in. And then you can kind of have that marbled look a little bit easier than just having all the colors mixed together. So all I'm doing is taking this is called like a bench scraper, and I'm just turning the turntable, the cake turntable, while I hold the bench scraper still. And it's just smoothing out the cake, or it's smoothing out the frosting. Now, if you don't, so you can see it's kind of like this marble, kind of even like watercolory, which is so cool. On the top, just kind of swirling. Now, if you didn't want to do like a smooth technique, that's totally fine. I'll show you here with this spatula how you can just kind of get like a messy, I actually like legit call it messy. It's a look, right? It's kind of more rustic and I love it. But if you just take a spatula, if you wanted to kind of rough it up a little bit, then, then you just can kind of add some more. I'm trying to see which angle I should do it at. You can kind of just do just like doing little S's, truthfully, kind of all throughout the cake. And especially when you're going for that kind of rustic look, there's really no right or wrong way to do it. Like, however you define messy is your mess, which is great. So it's just kind of gives it just a cool look, right? So, okay. So that's our marble cake at this point. I am gonna I'm gonna ask Matt to please help me by getting this in the fridge. So while we move on to the other stuff, thank you, dear. Then we'll have him bring it back out and then we'll add some of the stuff that we're doing on top of the cake. So I'm going to set my cake stand just off to the side and we're going to move on to some bark. Now, again, here's like a shameless plug for Michael's. We have exclusively at Michael's, we have our Sweet Tooth Fairy meltables, and these are like a candy coating, a little confection snap, and I'll show you right here. They come in all the colors and lots of really fun flavors too. So today I have some of our white, some of our teal, and some of our light pink. And these are so great because these aren't, you don't have to be like a chocolatier to know, you don't have to like temper these microwave so well in the microwave. So we're just gonna put them in the microwave for about 30 seconds each, give them a stir. We're gonna get all of the lumps out and then we'll go from there. They're so good, first of all, but they're also really, really easy to work with. And the thing that I love about them, and which actually has been asked kind of in each class, is if you don't use all of the meltables that you have melted, they'll just set back up. You can either put them in the fridge or you can let them set up at room temperature and then you can reuse them. So, which is a really awesome bonus feature of them. So don't think if you like melted them all and you don't use all of it that you have to throw that away. You can absolutely keep it and just put it in a airtight bag and seal them and then get them out next time. So I put those in for about 30 seconds and they're still not super melted. I prefer to err on the side of under melting them initially, just because you don't want to fry them. They'll seize up, which I'm sure some of you have experienced this, where they just get hard and clumpy. Sometimes even if, like me, you've forgotten that they were in there, you forgot to like properly set, the time, they can like burn. There'll be like a little burn spot. And then it kind of gets into the rest of the meltables. You can kind of dig that part out. And I think if this has happened to you, you know what I'm talking about. And then you can just add like a little bit, probably like depending on how many are in there, I would start with like a half a teaspoon of vegetable oil. And then that will like kind of re-smooth them out. So it's a little tip. If that sounds foreign to you, then congratulations. I can't tell you how many times I have done that. I'm going to put these two in together and hopefully they'll be melted here in just a few. Okay, so I'm just going to start with the white and I'm going to spread it out onto a sheet, like a little sheet pan. And I just have some wax paper actually down because that's what we have here. And just going to spread it out. Like so. All right. And I have the other ones that are just about to come out of the microwave. I'm just giving it like a little tap to kind of flatten out the meltables. Okay, so now I'm taking the pink, giving it a good stir. Let me get out all the lumps. And then I'm going to show you just, I think kind of the, oops, let me see the angle. I just like to do lines like so. I'm going to leave some space for the blue. Okay, then I'm going to kind of give that a tap. Since they're kind of like the same temperature, they're going to kind of melt into one another. Can you see that? Okay. So then with the blue, same thing. I'm just going to kind of do a few lines of blue. Any questions? I hope you guys feel comfortable asking some questions. Okay, so I'm just taking a spoon and kind of doing a little thinner of a line. All right, I'm just going to give that a little tap. So as you can see, it's not like it's particularly congruent or purposeful at this point. So I'm just going to take a toothpick. You can use a steak knife. I, for whatever reason, tend to use toothpicks. And then I'm going to kind of do what I did with the cake, where I'm just going to pull back and forth like this, up and down. Let's see. Okay, then I'm going to spin and pull this way. Just up and down, up and down. You can even like do little swirls. So I'm just doing little swirly swirl. It's the very technical baking term for what I'm doing. Swirly swirl. So as far as the marbling goes, really, truly, like with so much of decorating and creativity in general, there's really like no right or wrong way to do it. Like if you don't like the way they're swirling, you know, just come back, do whatever you'd like. So cool, right? So fun. It's the little things in life, friends, like getting excited about how your swirl turns out for your bark that make life sweet, right? So, okay, I just have some Sweet Tooth Fairy sprinkles, and I'm just going to sprinkle some on the top just for added fun. And we'll do a little bit of the sanding sugar as well. Cute. All right. Do you mind please putting that in the fridge as well? Thank you. Okay, so we've done our cake, we've done our bark, and now I'm going to show you how to do some dipped strawberries. I'm sure, as you can imagine, like that it's not like super technical things that we're doing with the marbling, right? It's just kind of thinking outside the box and giving it a try. So I'm going to add a little bit more of our white meltables here, and I'm going to microwave them. And then while I'm doing that, I'm going to add these pink and this teal to a disposable pastry bag. And hopefully it'll make sense why when you see. So this is just a plastic disposable pastry bag. These are still, you know, melted pretty well. I just got a big blob on my thumb. It's totally fine. Okay. And I'm just scooping a little bit into this bag. I'll set that aside. I'm going to do the same thing with the pink. No questions? Good heavens. Okay. That is totally fine. There's no pressure to ask questions. Hopefully that means I'm kind of doing okay at showing you some of this stuff. Okay. So these two have kind of set up just like a little bit. They're still fluid, right? But I'm just going to put them in the microwave for probably like 7 or 8 seconds, just to make sure that there's no, like when they're starting to set back up, they just get harder. And so I won't be able to like pipe super cleanly with, if they're kind of harder. So I'm going to make them a little bit more drizzly. Okay. So here's our white. I remember I had some melted already, but I just added a little handful. I'm just stirring until all the clumps go away. Okay. Nice and smooth. Let me grabbing a little piece of wax paper to put that spoon on. Okay, so so now we have these bags of the pink and the teal that are microwaved and just a little bit runnier, which is awesome. And I'm just going to take my scissors and cut probably just like a 1/4 to like a 1/2 inch from the tip on each bag. And can you do overhead for this one? So what I'm going to do is essentially pipe like an S, kind of like a little snake with one color. And then I'm going to come back with the other color and do the same thing. So I'm going like this, just back and forth. And coming back with the pink, you're going to see I'm going to actually kind of do pink on the outside. So I'm essentially tracing that teal line I just did. And so it's kind of like a, well, I guess if you do that, it's like, it looks like an M that my 6-year-old drew, or maybe an E or a 3. So, yeah, so this is kind of the pattern, if you will, that I like to use for this cool technique for the berries. So one thing, just to make sure that your strawberries, you've washed them and dried them. And you can take either a toothpick. I found these really cool plastic little picks just actually in my cupboard. So I'm going to use, I'll just use one of those. So I just put it in to the top of the berry, so the berry's secure on the end of it. And I'm just going to dip it in, and I'm going to twist as I bring it out. And it just gives like this kind of cool marbly, stripy situation. Let's see. You can kind of, I'm going to pick a smaller berry because since this bowl is a little shallower and the berry was taller, it didn't like come up and cover the berry all the way. So I'll pick a shorter one and I'll use a toothpick this time. And then we'll do the same thing. So you just submerge it down like into the meltables. And then as you pull it out, you just slowly twist. And you see that? It's just like a cool marbling effect, because that's what we're doing today is cool marbly things, right? Let's do one more. So same thing, I'm just submerging it into the meltables. And with this one, if I just pull it straight up, straight out, and not twist it that much, you can see that the marbling is very minimal and it's more like soft little stripies. So pretty cool, pretty fun, pretty easy. I should say that you can do this. You don't just have to use strawberries, right? You can do cherries, you can do sandwich cookies, you can do Rice Krispies, just anything that you would want to coat in delicious meltables. Okay, how are we on time? You good on time?
We're doing pretty good on time. I did have a couple questions I could throw in if now's a good time.
Yeah, please.
Absolutely, yeah. So Hannah asked, what would be some advice that you would give to somebody who would want to open up their own home-based cake business like you did before having your own bakery? I know it's a little broad question, but any quick hitting tips? Yeah.
My advice would be to do it, because we don't want to live life with regrets, right? That was kind of one of the things that I'm a little bit more of a risk taker, not like skydiving risks, but like just, I don't know, I guess entrepreneurial risks. And it might feel scary, but I figured I might as well try than like live my life and look back and think like, what if, So my first advice would be to do it. Just give it a go. You'll learn so much. My second kind of bit of advice would be to find someone maybe it's someone online, maybe it's a neighbor, maybe it's a colleague, maybe it's a professor or teacher at school who has owned a small business. They will be very, very helpful to you. And the other thing is that the SBA, like the Small Business Administration, actually has a lot of really great resources that you can tap into, and they'll be really, really helpful in the process as well. But I'm excited for you. I hope that means that you're, obviously debating it if you're asking about it. That's how I started. I had no idea what I was doing other than like making treats, because that's what I love to do. And I had some naysayers. I won't call you out, Mom, but just because, like it's risky and scary, and you just kind of don't know what you don't know, and you won't until you give it a go. So you can do it. Reach out to me if you have questions. I'm happy to answer them for you. It's hard, but it's worth it for sure. So I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, definitely motivational for sure. So get out there and do it. That's the tip. We also did have a question about if you had a preference in food coloring when using a box of white cake mix, for example, if you had a specific kind that you like to use personally.
So personally, like any gel food coloring that you can get, Michael's has plenty, you can get some online. I prefer the gel because I feel like in my experience, they're a little bit more concentrated. I feel like they go farther than like the water-based ones. So I would say gel food coloring for sure.
Very good. And we have some enthusiastic people who would love to see you teach a cookie decorating class in the future. So something to keep on the docket, maybe.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
Awesome.
So fun. I should say too, I just want to like interject if that's okay. So I know that like I do have retail bakeries, and in the Michael store, you see like this line of sprinkles and frosting and all these wonderful things, but I still like at my core, I'm like, I am one of you. I love to bake. I love to decorate. It sounds weird, but it's like my love language in many ways. And I still might sound crazy, but like, I still do this at home. For my family, for my friends, it's like therapeutic for me. So I don't really like, I feel like a poser calling myself a professional. I didn't go to any fancy pastry school. I like to say I was homeschooled when it comes to baking. I spent a lot of time in the kitchen with my mom. I'm the youngest of 5 kids, and I have older siblings, 3 big brothers, all who ate a lot. So I got a lot of time in the kitchen, kind of helping. So I guess all I'm trying to say is like, just don't be intimidated. Don't use, the internet or fancy pastry chefs just kind of as your standard. Just kind of baby step into it and kind of build on some of these easier techniques. And then as you kind of get a good foundation, you'll have your wings and you'll be ready to fly and do kind of other stuff. So yeah, there's this is like little inspirational, motivational class today as well. Who knew?
I love it. So, and then lastly, we have some people who are very eager to see a piece of the cake whenever it's available, if we're able to cut into it. So perfect. Just some people excited to see how it turned out.
Yeah. Okay. Do you mind please grabbing the cake? And I'm going to show you one last quick thing before we do that. Okay. This is just actually some homemade buttercream frosting that I made and brought. And I just put it into a microwave safe bowl. And I'm just going to mix it, I'm just going to microwave it for like 10 or 15 seconds, and I'm going to get it liquid. So I didn't add anything to it. I just am straight up microwaving it. And then I have some gel food coloring, and I'm going to just add the food coloring right into the frosting. And I gotta find my extra spoon. Here we go. Okay, so you can see as I'm stirring it, it's a little runnier. It's not quite as stiff. So I'm just gonna take this food coloring and kind of like what we just did, just marble it, right? So there's our color that we're adding to the white. And I'm going to take a toothpick, just kind of spin it a little. I kind of feel like the pink is underrepresented in our current marble. So I'm just going to do a few more plops. Give it a swirl. So with this technique with the gel, I'm essentially like mixing the food coloring right into the frosting. And then these are just store-bought donuts, okay? And I'm just gonna dip it in, kind of press firmly down. Pull up a little, give it a little twisteroo. Again, very technical baking term, twisteroo. And you can kind of see it has this cool marbled look. Store-bought, super fast, just kind of a way to dress up something that isn't homemade in a really quick, simple way. Okay, so on to the delicious cake. Are we at like 5 minutes or so? 10? Okay. Let me just give me a sec. I got to clean up a teensy bit. All right. Oh. Hold, please. We're just going to make sure that our turner actually turns for us. It detaches, and knowing me, my clumsy self, I probably would have like brought it over without the bottom and it would have toppled, but it's fine. Okay, so what am I looking for? I'm just looking for a pastry bag because I'm going to add some of the bark. Oh, want to grab the bark too, please? Perfect. So I'm going to use some teal. I'm just going to use it to kind of apply onto the exterior of the cake. This is like a teensy weensy one. I didn't know it was teensy, but it is, and we're going to make it work. So I'm pretty much just putting some in the pastry bag, so it's like glue. It's going to be glue for the bark. And here's our bark all set up and pretty. Sorry, we're getting a little crowded up in here, but it's totally fine. Okay, so with the bark, you can just literally snap it into pieces. Do big ones, small ones, ginormous ones, like so. And then I'm just gonna build, let's see, I should also say, there's always a front and a back to a cake. So kind of decide which one you want to be your front. I'm gonna go with right here as our front. And then I'm gonna use this frosting to apply, just kind of squeezing some on the bottom of the cake. And I'm just gonna jam it in there. Just a little bit, it's kind of acting as glue. We've got some there. Maybe we want to put a little piece right there. I'll do one there as well. We can take our strawberries that we did off the sticks. Just add those. Right, kind of fun. And you can just like, you know, kind of just keep building or not, keep it simple. But I'm just literally jamming them in to the cake. So it's kind of funky, a little like abstract, busy for sure. Just when I think I have the whole like minimalist thing down, I can't stop while I have my head. So anyway, so there's our fun marble masterpiece. And yes, I will cut into it. I'm just taking a paper towel right now and wiping off the cake plate, the cardboard cake circle. Do we have a knife that I can use to cut said cake? I wish you all could have a piece with me. But not possible. A virtual piece for sure. Any questions while we're just waiting for a knife to come?
Yes, so we did have a couple questions. One, it related to the cookie thing, frosting cupcakes, another thing people would love to see in the future at some point.
Okay.
Just you're getting all kinds of recommendations here.
Perfect.
We had Julia asking about how to make red velvet. I don't know if that's something we can get into. And then just confirming that everything like that you did with the donuts was also meltables or icing. I believe it was meltables, but just wanted to confirm.
Okay, so yes to a cookie and cupcake decorating class. Always happy to come and hang out with you guys. I actually used frosting, like icing for the donuts. And the reason I did that is because the meltables, you'll see when you get them, like they start hard. So they have like a snap to them and they'll set up and they dry hard as well. If you cut, and so for the donut, I would recommend not doing it in its like natural state, because if you bite into it, it'll be like this pillowy, soft, donut with like the crunch of the chocolate. It's probably delicious. But I just mean, just as far as like the actual texture and process of eating it, it might be a little bit not the most desirable. So you can either soften it up by adding a little more oil to the meltables, and it will, as you play around with it, you'll see that like that texture, it does become softer. It'll still set up, but it won't like snap. Like if you took a bite, it wouldn't like snap into it. It would kind of more like your teeth would kind of more sink into it, if that makes sense. So I did use frosting because that's soft already. And then the red velvet, we should probably do a red velvet class. There's so many different ways to do red velvet. So another challenge accepted. If that works, I don't mean to cut you off, but I know we're short on time. So why don't I cut into the cake and we'll share with our friends here. I'll show you how fun. So see, so cool. And how fun, like obviously for holidays, again, if you're doing your own from scratch recipe, you can dye it any color. So, or if you're, I don't know, making something for the bake sale for school, you could use your school colors. There's lots of reasons to celebrate, and making a fun cake for that celebration is just the way to go. So thank you again. Thank you for coming, and please check back because I'm here like twice a month or so at least teaching classes, and I love to see friends from all over here. So thanks again and have a great day.